So it's never made sense to me why, in Harry's first year, none of the students know anything about the Sorting Hat. So I made a TikTok about it, and a lot of you said the SuperCarlinBros have made a video on it. The SuperCarlinBros themselves even commented and said it's to do with a Fidelius charm. So today I'm going to watch that video and respond in real time to the theory. It sounds cool, but I can't wrap my head around how a Fidelius charm could answer this question. So let's see what they've got to say.
This is one of the most famous magical artifacts ever. It's literally the starting point for most of these witches and wizards, like, lives. Harry, understandably, knows nothing, but freaking Ron, whose entire existence in the first book basically seems to be explaining the magical world to Harry, says some sort of test, I think. Fred says it hurts a lot, but I think he was joking. Weasley family! How does Ron not know about the sorting ceremony? He's the 6th son and 8th member of this family to go to this school. You're all in the same house. How has nobody discussed it like over dinner or something? Even Hermione, who has read Hogwarts history like 1,000 times, has no idea that it's coming. Are you kidding me? Hogwarts history doesn't explain the sorting ceremony?
Honestly, Hermione not knowing doesn't bother me so much because she's from like a muggle family, and sure, she's read a bunch of books, but they might just not be in the books. It's easier to explain away. But how does Ron not know? Like they say, he's got 6 older siblings. Bill, Charlie, Percy, Fred, George. He's got 5 older siblings. And I can kind of understand that Fred and George are pranksters and they might just be tricking him. Like, oh, you're gonna have to fight a troll. Haha, good one, Fred, good one, George. But are you seriously telling me, 1, Percy wouldn't set them straight? Like, he is the most straight and narrow person in the entire book. He follows the rules, he wants everything to be prim and proper, and I can imagine him being like, oh, brothers, do not play this prank. Ronald, it's simply a hat will sort you. And even if Percy wasn't to explicitly tell them, surely a little reference to the Sorting Hat has come up over dinner. Like with the 5 siblings and Molly and Arthur having gone to Hogwarts. No reference to the old hat just slips out one day. But more than Hermione, more than Ron, how does Draco not know? Draco's dad tells him about the Triwizard Tournament in the Goblet of Fire, which is literally a secret. But he won't tell him about a hat sorting him into his house. And more than how do they not just find out, houses are such a big part of the Harry Potter universe. Like, grown adults reference their Hogwarts house. It's so ingrained in their society. Are you telling me no child prior to 11 years old has ever asked, how do you get put in your house? And if they have, does that make all wizards and witches just liars? So we're establishing that no one seems to know and how ridiculous that is, but the guys seem to have a theory as to why, so let's jump into that.
What if the knowledge of the Sorting Hat is protected by the Fidelius charm?
So I like the idea of a Fidelius charm protecting the knowledge of the Sorting Hat, but there are just so many flaws, and I'm sure they'll go on to address it, but my initial thoughts are, who would be the secret keeper? Because for it to have been a secret all this time, the person who is the secret keeper would have to be thousands of years old. They would have to have been there since the founders first put the hat in place. Nicholas Flamel isn't even thousands of years old.
Once the charm is in effect, only the secret keeper is capable of transferring the information to other people, even if people previously knew the information.
Okay, so I guess they wouldn't have to be thousands of years old, and everyone could have known about it before. It could have been not protected by a Fidelius charm, and then all of a sudden they put in a secret keeper. But thinking about the journey of the kids, that secret keeper would have to be McGonagall, because they don't know about it, and then McGonagall speaks to them, no one else speaks to them, and then they get sorted. McGonagall isn't particularly elderly. She's not like Dumbledore, who's been around for over a century. So the secret keeper could be McGonagall, but why would it not be a secret for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden, like Dumbledore's just put in as headmaster, and he's just like, that old hat that thousands and thousands of years worth of students know about, that's never been a secret before and it's been fine, what if we make it a secret and make McGonagall secret keeper? To be fair, it's the same headmaster who moves the Philosopher's Stone from Gringotts, which is protected by dragons and enchantments, to a school which is protected by a 3-headed dog and a chess game, and a few other challenges that 3 11-year-olds can get past. Actually, it does fall in line with Dumbledore's decision-making.
It would make sense that the information of the Sorting Hat is being protected by the Fidelius charm. Then, even if you grew up in a wizarding family like Ron or Malfoy, their parents would actually be unable to tell them about or to prepare for the sorting ceremony. And that would make sense as to why it wasn't in Hogwarts history, because you would not actually be able to pass along that information. Or even more possible is that you could write about it, but anyone who wasn't in on the secret wouldn't be able to read those words. I'd mark that as plausible.
So that's a cool theory. The idea that it's in Hogwarts history, you just can't read about it until you already have the information. And the bit about Ron's family just physically being unable to tell him about it because they aren't the secret keepers. If I were a wizard, I would want to put that to the test though, especially like Fred and George. They're probably sat at the table desperately trying to say the words Sorting Hat to Ron to put it to the test. And they're just like, so yeah, they put this And they just can't get it out. And Ron and Ginny have no idea what's going on because they haven't been let in on the secret yet. So they're just like, why can Fred and or George just not say the next word? What's going on? Fred and George trying to like trick or sneak up on the charm. Like talking about something else. Oh yeah, in Diagon Alley you get all your books. And you're sorted into your house by the and they just can't. I can imagine that happening, absolutely.
All of this being said, I'm sure you've already spotted a few issues with this idea. Like, for example, who is the secret keeper for the Sorting Hat? And if they died, would this tradition just be over? Yes, those are both issues. And as I said earlier, if the secret keeper dies, then all of the people that have been told the secret now become secret keepers. And the school's been around for so long that surely the original secret keeper died, right? And of course, the biggest issue of them all is that if the Sorting Hat is protected by the Fidelius charm, then how does Harry tell his son Albus about it during the epilogue?
It's a solid point, actually. Harry tells his kid about the Sorting Hat in the epilogue, which means McGonagall hasn't died by then, so she can't have been the secret keeper, or he wouldn't be able to tell her that. So is, like, Lupin secretly the secret keeper? No, that can't work, because Lupin didn't tell them about the hat before they got sorted. Maybe Dumbledore? Dumbledore is one of the few people that they, I guess, can see across the hall in their first year who dies before the epilogue takes place.
Well, we all know that Professor McGonagall is the one who presents the Sorting Hat at the beginning of the year. So my first thought is that she must be the secret keeper because she's able to pass along that information. But obviously McGonagall hasn't been around since the start of the school. So maybe this is just a new thing and Dumbledore decided that McGonagall should be the secret keeper instead of himself for some reason. But no, because McGonagall hasn't died by the time that Harry tells Albus about the hat. So how could he pass along that information? I admit that was a bit of a problem for this particular theory, but then it hit me. The hat is its own secret keeper.
No. Inanimate objects cannot be their own secret keepers. Otherwise, surely Voldemort would have just made his Horcruxes secret keepers of themselves. In fact, why didn't Voldemort make himself secret keeper for the Horcruxes? There are flaws with this spell, aren't there? Couldn't the Potters have made the cottage in Godric's Hollow its own secret keeper? Actually, there are already flaws with that because Bill is secret keeper for Shell Cottage when he lives there in the Deathly Hallows. So James or Lily could have just been their own secret keepers. There are definitely flaws with this spell, yes. So far, don't love the theory, but I'll hear him out.
Now this works perfectly. Pottermore says that the Fidelius charm is the concealment of information inside of a living person. Now, the hat isn't a living person, but it is sentient and does contain the knowledge of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. The hat has been there since the beginning of the school, so that takes care of that. But what about McGonagall? Well, if you go back and reread the chapter about that first sorting ceremony, you find that McGonagall doesn't actually tell them about the hat. In fact, it specifically says that she silently places the hat on the stool, and then the hat actually tells the students about itself.
Kind of makes sense. I still don't love the idea of an inanimate object being its own secret keeper, and powerful ancient magic just being the explanation for how that's possible.
But then there's still the issue of Harry telling Albus, because Albus wouldn't have met the hat yet. True, but I think by the time Albus is attending Hogwarts, the charm has actually been broken by none other than Voldemort. If you remember, in the Deathly Hallows, he summons the hat from Dumbledore's office, places it on Neville's head, and lights it on fire. Voldemort is trying to destroy the hat, trying to destroy the very process of sorting, the very secret we've been discussing this whole time. Whatever Voldemort did, I do think it could classify as the hat itself dying, although by the time of the epilogue, obviously it is back up and running again because Harry's other kids have been sorted by it. But if the hat did in fact die, then everyone who already knew about the hat would become secret keepers, and at that point, Harry could discuss it with someone else.
It makes sense. Oh, it does. It makes sense, and I hate it, and I also love it. I love everything about this theory. It's brilliant, it's smart, it works with all the circumstances, except the thing I don't love is just that it's ancient magic we don't understand, and that's why it works. It feels like a cop-out, but there is a lot of that in Harry Potter. The thinking, though, behind the theory is brilliant. And in terms of the theory using ancient magic to bridge a gap, it fits within the context of the story. It's not like the theory cuts corners. It's like it takes corner cutting from within the books and makes that fit within the theory. I'm going to go ahead and give this theory like an 8 out of 10. I think it's good. I just don't like it. And let's face it, the most obvious answer is that it's just a plot hole. J.K. Rowling just didn't think it through very much. Like, the first book was just supposed to be a simple kid's book. I doubt details like this were really fleshed out. Like the fact that they give them like 3 points at a time in this one and then it's like 50 points at a time in the later books. It's just inconsistent writing. But if we had to come up with an explanation from evidence within the text as to why this fits, fits and we couldn't just say the writer made a mistake. I think this Fidelius charm theory is the best we'll get because it's actually really bloody good, even if I don't like it personally. So I guess that's all I have to say on this. If you want to hear me talk more about Harry Potter, I make Harry Potter content all across the internet in these places. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications here on YouTube, and I'll speak to you soon. See you later.